Good evening and thank you for joining us. We like to follow the local hockey players when they make good, Aaron, and that's one guy that, well, he's in for a move at least, I guess. Yeah,
last year I went to Saskatoon and had the chance to follow Darian Drzinski for a day. And you know, this kid, great kid, was drafted by the Phoenix Coyotes this year. And now, Saskatoon Blades traded his rights to the Brandon Wheat Kings, and he will be out west for a stint with them. So I'll have more details coming up a bit later on in sports.
Look forward to the details there. Gerard, pretty nice weekend. What are we looking forward to for the rest of the week?
Well, we've got similar kinds of conditions maybe on Thursday. We will talk about that in due course. Let's deal with just today, all right? We got to 11 today. We're down to 10 at the moment. It got to 11 at just about 3 o'clock. So 35% is that humidity. The wind has picked up just a bit. It wasn't doing under 20 earlier on in the afternoon, west-northwest. So it's out of the northwest again. So some of that colder air is coming on down. And as we compare across the region, some more cloud cover in the Cold Lake area for that 11, similar conditions there. And for the Battlefords, blue skies, sunshine, and 13. We'll talk about what the rest of the week holds in the second segment.
One local action group has taken it upon themselves to do something about the homeless in Lloydminster. They did a count of the number of people living without permanent roofs over their heads and found 135 people were living in some form of homeless situation. Whitney Stinson breaks down the numbers and tells us what the group would like to see happen next.
Outside St. John's Anglican Church, evidence of makeshift shelters can be found fairly regularly.
A hole back there where they broke in, where they were...
Reverend Stonehouse is a member of Homes for All and was one of the volunteers counting the homeless earlier this month.
There was one was saying, finally, someone cares enough to do something. Someone cares enough to try to fix this situation. And then the other extreme said, oh yeah, nothing will happen.
But the committee is hoping that's not the case. By doing a count, they got a true picture of what homelessness looks like and found these results. They defined absolute homeless as people living on the streets or in abandoned or condemned buildings. They were shocked to find 4 children in this situation. The sheltered homeless was a count of how many people were using the men's shelter, the interval home, or the youth shelter.
They know that there's homeless youth, but no homeless youth happened to come to the shelter, to the youth center, I should say, that particular day. But the youth center and the middle school's alternative program together did a tally, and they counted about 25 to 35 on any given night.
In the next 2 categories, the group doesn't feel they were able to get an accurate count. Hidden homeless are people who are able to avoid shelters, but are constantly living in temporary situations, often called couch surfers. The relative homeless is anyone who is at risk of losing their home. If you pay more than 30% of your take-home pay on accommodations, you are in this category.
So what do you think of these numbers?
The group says those last 2 categories are the most troublesome.
The picture of homelessness in Lloydminster is far bigger than the absolute that we see on the street. And the real issue of homelessness is often the hidden homeless, where we have the overcrowded, the couch surfing, because people cannot find affordable. These are working people who cannot find affordable housing.
We know, for instance, at least some of the people who are couch surfing or staying at the campground, for instance, are there because they can't find affordable housing.
Both the Alberta and Saskatchewan government, as well as the city, has expressed an interest in this group's findings to hopefully come up with government programs to fix the affordable vacancy problem in Lloydminster.
We're not going to be able to solve homelessness as a city. We have to do it as a collective community and do what we can. In some cases, there's always going to be a certain number of people in that circumstance. So how are we as a community to that segment?
This is where some people were staying.
In the meantime, Reverend Stonehouse isn't getting down about pulling sleeping bags out from under his porch. Instead, he finds hope in the success rates other cities have found after going through this same program.
When they have provided permanent, safe accommodation for people, people make lifestyle changes. So even people that we would write off as being incorrigible in terms of unchangeable, they start changing.
The next step for the group is to develop a homeless initiative business plan with their stakeholders. Whitney Stinson, Newcap News.
The Occupy Wall Street protest trickled right down to the border city. On Saturday morning, a small group of people hung up posters and gathered in front of City Hall to support the movement. Kathy Lee reports.
Starting out as a solo protest, this group grew a few more in numbers over the course of the afternoon.
Change! Change! The whole world needs change!
Receiving honks from vehicles passing by.
We're getting a lot of support from the community. A few hecklers, but if people don't understand or people are not willing or open to change.
Thank you! Woo!
These guys hope to educate and bring awareness to issues that ignited the Wall Street protests.
There's a lot of big problems that need to be addressed in this world, and you know, the first thing we have to do is realize there's a problem with the economic system that we live in that's causing inequalities between people.
Initially planning to join a group in Edmonton, Richard Gervais decided to stay in Lloyd and use the travel money towards posters.
Get everybody involved here. You know, get every city involved, because there's 1,500 cities across the world today. This is an important day in history. Why not be a part of it?
After following the protests happening around the world, group members say it's time for them to also stand up for change.
If the world worked on profits of saving lives instead of profits of money, you know, like we'd save so many lives.
We need to find something that works for the rich, works for the poor, and takes away that gap, and everyone's equal.
And while this is the first day of local protesting, the group says it won't be the last.
As long as it takes. I mean, we got jobs, so we got to do shift work, what we can, but every chance we get, we're going to occupy this spot.
Kathy Lee, Newcap News.
Portage College is continuing to make education more accessible to students. The college has just opened 2 new multi-trades labs at the Centennial Center in Bonnyville. As Clayton Brown explains, the new labs allow students to get an education right in their backyard.
Partage College has officially opened 2 new labs at the Centennial Center. The college can now offer electrical apprenticeships and journeyman instrumentation, among other trades, right here in Bonnyville.
It enables us now to introduce individuals to carpentry, steam pipe fitting, electrical, and welding. Individuals who would otherwise have to travel at least 150 to 200 kilometers to have that experience.
The more of our residents can get educated in this area and find jobs in this area, it's a win-win situation for everybody.
The college's goal is for each campus to have a program that none of its other campuses offer. In Bonnyville, it'll be the electrical and instrumentation courses.
Our expectation here in Bonnyville is to have a twofold focus. One is introduction to skills trades training, and the other is to grow off that electrical instrumentation, electronics technologist training as we go down the road.
But Portage isn't just working with its own students in the labs, they've also reached out to high schools in the area.
We've been piloting right now electrical, carpentry, and welding in 2 schools. And just this September, we started teaching apprenticeship level training at the Frog Lake First Nations High School.
It's for these young students, rural Albertans, that don't have to drive into Edmonton, that extra cost on them. Some of our First Nations community students who have the ability to stay in their social safety network that they have created.
Portage hopes this is the first of more expansions to come. In Bonnyville, Clayton Brown, Newcap News.
Education Week kicked off early this morning at Father Gorman Elementary School. Mike Baden explains how Mayor Jeff Mulligan joined some youngsters to read a couple stories and answer some tough questions.
The students have anxiously been awaiting the arrival of the city's mayor for over a week now.
I think it's very exciting. It brings Mayor Jeff Mulligan to our school, and it opens up the community to them. They have been very excited and waiting for his arrival this morning and all of last week.
Mayor Jeff Mulligan was eager to speak with all the kids this morning.
Well, when you see their wide eyes and these are the future of our city, it's fun to spend time with them. I wish I could do way more of it.
The question period seems to be the students' favorite part.
Is it hard running in the city?
Is it hard running in the city? The question and answer piece, where their eyes are wide open and they're just experiencing and learning so much. The things that we forget, how much there is to learn and how open you can be to new ideas.
This is a great opportunity for the children to learn all about the work that goes into being the mayor of Lloydminster.
I think the main thing is that they understand what is involved in making sure that a community does run properly and that they are safe, and looking at, you know, who knows, maybe we have a future mayor in our hands here.
Mike Baden, Newcap News.